Austin, thank you so much for being willing to be on the Worship Keys podcast.
Yeah.
Guys, Austin Seale with Seale Keyworks is featured today. He just got done actually tuning my personal piano here at home, Acrosonic Baldwin upright piano. I think it was from 1961. But Austin, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now you guys, Seale Keyworks has been around since 1985.
85, yep.
Almost 40 years.
That's right.
Y'all gonna throw a big party?
We are, actually.
That's
We're
awesome.
going to have a throwback with everything.
That's awesome. Congrats on 40 years, man.
Thank you.
So good. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do and where y'all service. And of course, right now we're in Nashville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And I know you do a ton of client work here in Nashville, Tennessee, including Belmont University and other amazing artists and studios and personal homes. So tell us a little bit about what all you guys do.
Yeah, we consider ourselves a full-service piano company. So we move, we tune, repair, restoration in our shop, player systems, storage, and then we sell a few too. Yeah, we try to do it all.
That's awesome, man. We really just want to offer some advice. And I say we, but it's really not me at all you, Austin, offering advice to both worship leaders. Maybe you're a worship leader at your church and you have a nice grand piano left over that's been there for years, decades, that you want to take care of that piano. Maybe you have a personal piano at home and maybe, you need some advice for how to take care of that piano. Maybe you're moving, you need some advice there. But really, this episode is all about the importance of piano tuning and piano maintenance and why it's so important to maintain your acoustic piano. And then on the flip side of things, also from the perspective of, I know we have a lot of keys players that listen and watch into these episodes. Maybe you're a keys player that you want to think about, hey, maybe I could be a piano tuner. Maybe you're in high school right now, or college, or maybe even older, and you're just thinking, hey, career change. Maybe I want to be a piano tuner. This episode's actually going to be great for you because you can see into the life of a full-time piano tuner like Austin here who runs his business. And you guys have 7 technicians?
7 technicians, yeah.
Amazing. So you've trained other technicians, you've hired people who are technicians, what to look for when you're looking into a good technician.
Right.
So we're going to talk about those things here in this episode. But with piano tuning, what are some of the misconceptions that maybe clients have about piano tuning as far as like how often you should do it, where the piano should be in your house or your church or whatever? What are just some of those common misconceptions that people have about piano tuning?
Good question. We do recommend having it tuned once or twice a year, and that will maintain the changes of the seasons really when we recommend having it done the most, but that will really take care of a lot of small issues that will crop up. Misconception there is some people think they have to tune it once every 5 years or 10 years. By doing that, you'll miss a window of something goes wrong. It'll be a bigger problem later if there's a crack or something happens like that. Yeah. Another misconception is where the piano is located. A lot of times we'll get some of our clients saying that the piano can't be on an outside wall. Traditionally, that was the case with older homes, maybe poor insulation, that kind of thing, but modern homes are just fine. So it can really just be anywhere.
That's awesome. Even your windows.
Now, not as long as it's not facing the sun. So the sun comes in, then that does cause problems, but as long as it's away from any light source, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good, man. So what kind of could you have that you could give to like maybe beginner piano tuners who are like wanting to get into this? What are like the misconceptions as you approach the whole art of tuning, which by the way is a huge skill that I know you've spent over 10,000 hours putting in to be a pro to do this. What are some of those misconceptions from like a beginner tuner?
Stay with it because it's very tedious. When you first start, it's 2.5 hours, maybe more, of just on the same piano, just really trying to hear everything, and you get in your head a little bit. You just have to push through that, and repetition, that's what it takes. Especially when you're first starting, you maybe find a mentor. Actually, it's probably one of the best things that can show you, can help you along your journey. If you're doing it by yourself, especially if you're just tuning your same piano over and over again, you're really not learning quickly. Yeah. If you're able to get to other pianos somehow, maybe donation or offer your service for free to a client, that way you get that experience. It's really about the feel and as you turn the pen, hear the difference, you feel where it should be. that just takes repetition.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. How did you get your start in piano tuning?
My dad, actually.
Okay.
So my dad started the company in '85, and I have fond memories of growing up, and he was in the basement tuning and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, he was actually my mentor. So
That's amazing. Is he still living?
yep, he's still living. He's actually still tuning every now and then.
Oh, is
So,
he?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's awesome, man. That's great. Are you a pianist yourself? Do you play a lot?
I play a little. I wouldn't consider myself a great pianist. Of course, there's many in this city. There's many good pianists.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what I want to ask you as a piano tuner who you maintain pianos, what is your favorite piano brand? And, or I guess you could choose a couple, but if you have one that's like prominent, you can definitely tell us that. And then tell us some of your least favorites and some that everyone should just maybe stay away from.
Oh, a fair question. Without getting myself in trouble here. My favorite brands, me personally, I like the Japanese brands, Kawai and Yamaha.
Awesome.
I'm preferential to Yamaha. I love everything about them. Really well engineered. They're bright, which kind of punch through recordings and really sing. I like that aspect of it. Easy to tune, so we call that rendering. So as you're pulling the pin around, you really feel a lot of feedback there. So it's, as a technician standpoint, easy to work on, feels great. It's a nice piano. But
That's awesome.
the bad pianos are typically full uprights that haven't been serviced in quite some time. We do our best, but there's so many issues that are just slowing us down, and strings can break, and it's really a kind of nightmare sometimes. But I'd say in general, full uprights, maybe that are 100 years old. It's been a while.
The really old ones.
Yeah.
Really old ones. And the full, not the spinets? Are you talking about?
Spinets they're okay. Generally, spinets are more maintained than those older uprights.
Okay.
So you have spinets, consoles, studios, and then full uprights are neck high. They're big, yeah.
A common thing for a lot of just common people that don't do this work like you do day in and day out, they see a deal on Facebook Marketplace, there's a free piano, oh, I just need to get a piano tuner, pay a few $100s and it's gonna be golden. Can you speak on that, that problem? I
get this question all the time. Free is never free. It's a good deal. You could find a good deal every now and then, but I would say 99% of the time. You're going to have issues with, there could be a crack somewhere. There could be some just hidden issues like that were just going to come up once you get the piano into your house, if you paid for moving crews and get everything in there, and then, oh, there's this issue. We do offer assessments on potential piano buyers, so to prevent those things, but we do see that the free Craigslist pianos, I hate to say, are not a good idea.
Yeah, that's good. I want people to know that, because I know many people are like, I found this great deal on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever, and it's gonna cost you a lot more in the end. And really, even once you get a good technician in there, have you ever been able to fully revive a free piano and it not cost that much? Have there been good situations?
Yeah, there have been. It's hit or miss on those. It's not a foolproof thing. We come in and we can fix everything. It could be a hammer that's broken or a key that's just not lined up, and minor regulation that wouldn't be needed, and then a tuning. Another thing with free upright pianos is since it hadn't been maintained, the pitch is so far flat. If we try to pull it up, we're going to break strings and break other things. But you could find those pianos that have been maintained and that are inexpensive.
Absolutely. From a technical perspective, if you're a new tuner, what would you say to the new tuner if you're working on like an old piano, really bad out of shape, just to practice on? At what point is it too far out of tune where you're worrying about breaking a string? Is it like 2 half steps away, or how far out of tune are you worried?
With new pianos, you can pull up a string about 100 cents, so 1 half step.
Okay.
And that's actually what a lot of string manufacturers recommend when you first string a piano. Pull it up 100 cents sharp.
Gotcha.
That way it will fall back down. With older pianos, you really have to use your own judgment. Strings rusty. Are there components that look like they're not lined up? And so you really have to make your own judgment. I typically say on an older, maybe 1950s piano that hadn't been tuned 10, 20 years, I'll pull it up probably about 20 cents and then hold and tell the customer we can work on our way to get back to A440, but really just incrementally, just because you don't want to add a lot of tension to a piano all at once like that.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I've made that mistake actually a few times.
Oh,
so,
breaking strings?
Yeah, actually no, I broke one string at someone's house, a friend of mine, piano who got a free Facebook Marketplace piano, and it was like 2 half steps out of tune. And I was like, oh man, I don't think if I can keep going. But I have tuned a few, or attempted to tune a few, where it's a half step or more out of tune, and I was just trying to crank it back to being exactly in. And you'd say only raise it maybe 20%.
20.
If it's really old and
20 to 30 cents, I would say, is your window.
Which that's not much.
It's really not much.
It's not much.
You're actually adding several thousand pounds of pressure for those increments that you go up. Other things could be looming. If you have the bridges that underneath the piano, the ribs, that see if they can really take the added tension.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, there's a lot goes into that, man.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk more about the technical aspects of piano tuning. For one thing, if you have a piano, if you're a worship leader, keep your piano maintained. Get it tuned. I know a lot of churches will get it tuned 3 or 4 times a year, which is awesome.
That's great.
Change of the season, you should. And then for your home piano, once a year, maybe?
Yep. Once or twice a year.
Once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Is there typically like discounts you give to more consistent clients, or is it the same thing every time? Or
We do give you discounts.
Okay.
Yeah. Churches and schools, we typically give a little bit of a discount just because they're tuning 2 or 3 times at least a year. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Do you have any other clients or stories that you'd want to share as far as who you guys service, or would like to shout out anyone or talk about any awesome things y'all have done?
We've actually gone to a few Super Bowls.
Oh, wow. That's
and
neat.
done that.
Wow, that's a
again, we
big thing.
can't really say.
Of course.
But
that's
yeah,
neat.
those are the fun ones.
That is neat. That is awesome, man. So I want to compare tuning hammers and tuning kits. I'm just going to get my kit out that I have versus your kit.
Okay.
And we're going to link these hammers and your certain products also in the show notes in the description, so people can purchase these if they want to. Now, of course, it's not as, and I say this about keyboards, say this about software, it's not as much about the tools as it is about the technician and the engineer, the person doing it. You could use my same tools and do the job 10 times better than I would, because you are who you are. So when we talk about gear, just as a disclaimer, the better tools, better things aren't going to instantly make your tuning perfect. It's going to take that listening and that ear training.
Right.
Speaking of ear training, let's talk about ear training before the gear, because when we're talking about tuning, you're listening for the beats within the frequencies and how they're matching up. Can you explain the technicalities of what you're listening for when you're tuning?
Right. So when I start tuning, I use my gear does require, say for tuning in the treble section, to tune one of those 3 strings to the machine, and then I am listening for the other 2 strings matching that first one. And so I'm basically just listening the frequencies line up and get in phase.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done because there's a technique. So we over pull it and then bump it down. So that way that frequency will kind of lock in place a little better.
When piano tuners are talking about listening to the beats, can you explain what that means? Because some people are confused by that. It's a note. What do you mean there's beats? It's not like a drum set here. What are you doing listening to beats? Can you explain that whole concept for everyone?
Sure, I'll do my best here. You'll have, say, 2 strings that are slightly out of tune. One string comes out in this wave. The other one will, when we say beat, it will almost sonically rub against each other. And so you'll hear this kind of phasing that's going on. It's the best way I could describe it, where it's not desirable. And so you're trying to blend that together as best as you can. And if the frequencies are largely the same, then that will it'll amplify the sound, which is another phenomenon. But this presence will come out of the string, and those beats will actually almost go away, and you'll hear this. It'll just sound better.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to that point, I remember my band director. I was a band nerd in high schools and in college too. But I remember him explaining this in high school about, okay, trumpets, we might only have 10 trumpets here, and the other school down the road might have 18. But if all 10 of you are relatively in tune with each other, y'all are going to sound cleaner and better and louder than those 18 trumpets that have 2 or 3 different kind of tuning going on.
Yeah.
So the power of unification, being unified with those frequencies, is a very important thing. You just tuned this whole piano. Can you tell our audience more about this Acrosonic Baldwin upright piano. This was my childhood piano. It's been on my dad's side of the family the entire time.
We can look it up here by the serial number.
You can look it up?
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep. You want me to do that now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Right.
Yeah. So you can look up the year based on the serial number.
There's plenty of free apps that will.
What app do you use to look it up?
It is called Piano Atlas.
Piano Atlas. Check it out.
Baldwin Acrosonic, and then you just enter the serial number. Yeah. So you go 1961, 62.
1961, 62. Very cool.
Yep.
Made in Cincinnati. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's when Baldwin was founded.
Oh, okay.
This was most likely made in Truman, Arkansas. So they used to have a facility out there. Actually, I visited a few times.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, where they see the whole piano manufacturing process and how they shape wood and get all keys ready and shape those. But
that's awesome.
yeah.
And before you started tuning, Austin actually replaced this F-sharp key right here. I broke it. Oh, a piece of equipment fell on top of this key and it broke off. Can you talk a little bit about piano repair and some of the craziest things you've seen over the years? And
Yes, I would say glue is your friend. We use CA glue and super glue a lot. That can repair just most things in a hurry. Of course, back in our shop, if something requires a more serious repair, like a leg broken off during transport, those kind of things, we'll use wood glue and lots of screws and that kind of thing. But in the field, I guess you don't have that time and luxury, so you need something fixed pretty quickly. So we use CA, and like a two-part system where glue and this activator come together and bond. But a lot of it is just knowing the mechanics and how it's supposed to work. A lot of times when we teach our new techs, you're out in the field, there's something going wrong. It's like, okay, what is going wrong? Look at the key next to it and see how that operates. And a lot of times, there's this spring that's not lined up, and you put the spring back in place and it works. So a lot of repairs are just like that. Just how does this piano work? Most pianos are pretty much the same as far as the mechanics, but they might implement them a little differently. They might put things over here, but that's still called the same thing. So,
got you.
Yep.
Got you.
A lot of times just figuring it out.
Good stuff.
As you go. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. So I guess we could talk about gear now. I'm going to open up my little toolbox of stuff, which I got some mutes, which kind of looks like your mute. It's a basic mute here, which you have as well. I'm not going to get it out because we might get confused. But yours is still stuck in the string there. This is my hammer, and you can actually notice how it's a lot smaller. If you want to show everyone your hammers, you actually have two hammers.
I do have two.
And tell everyone why you have two.
Yep, this one's sort of my everyday hammer.
Yeah.
It also has an extension on it, so it makes it to where when you're tuning, some baby grand pianos have a lip above the tuning pins that my nice one here can't get over, and so this one just plops right over the top of it, and I can ergonomically get around it. It's my everyday one, and then this guy is a folk tuning hammer, and it's light. Even though it's big, it's actually, I don't know if you want to feel it, it's a lot lighter than what you think. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Actually, yeah, I just thought it was heavy.
Yeah.
It's thick, but yeah, feel that thing.
Yeah, they're about the same.
They're about the same size.
Weight, yeah.
But so what makes this so much better?
It is lighter, so there's less, when you do move, your shoulder is actually moving less, if that makes sense. But actually the main important thing about it is it's very connected. There's less wobble.
Wiggle room, yeah.
So when you put it on the pin, it's solid, and you have this ball here where it just feels more connected to your body when you're moving it. I would say the tuning hammer is actually one of the most important things tech can have. They are expensive. I would maybe you can get something like this. It's $100 or something. This is more in the $400 range. But if you can quickly your skill set can quickly pass this, and that's your limitation. I would say if you're really serious about it, just go ahead and upgrade. There's a few kind of in this category that are great.
That's good.
Yeah.
And just for everyone who's listening and watching, this one is about $50, the one that I have. Yours, you said $100, and this
about
is $400.
$450, yeah.
$450 range.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And this is probably, you said, the most important tool
Yes.
a tuner can have.
That is your feel, everything gets translated through that tuning hammer. And if you start, especially if you start out, that could be a point of frustration. You're starting out and you can't really get it. You're going sharp and flat. You can't really lock it in place. That's because it's not really connected to that tuning pin, and you can't feel that difference. And so you can really manipulate the tuning hammer in a way that will get you where you need to go.
That's good.
Yeah.
What are the names of these two? And we'll also link them in the video.
This one's, I think, just a generic one. It has a
generic.
Hale tip number 2.
Okay.
So those are standard, the size. So number 2 is the standard tuning pin size.
Okay.
This is a folk, and I can...
Folk is what it's called. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Very cool, man. Talking about your device here, which when you were tuning, I was amazed at it. I was like, what is that thing? Looks so high tech. Tell me about your tuner, or what is this called? What do you call this box?
Sure,
is it
it's
a tuner?
a Sanderson AccuTuner is the name, but we call it a SAT. So there's different versions of the SAT. It's the SAT 4.
SAT 4. How much is this thing?
This one is, I think, new. They're $2,500.
Okay.
At least the last time I looked, they aren't expensive, but it's pretty serious. So it can do a lot, and actually it can do more than I can remember how to program, really.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
Explain this a little bit for us.
So on the top here, you have your note name and the sense sharp or flat. So as you tune, you can set this to tune it. We call straight, where there's no temperament. It's just a straight tuning. There's no curve. Or you can do what's called, we call an FAC, which tempers the tuning a little bit.
And why is that the method that you use, and why do you think that's the best?
It just naturally sounds. So our brain, as we go up the scale, our brain kind of wants to perceive higher notes sharper. And if you tune it flat, there are many. I mean, there's many arguments and online about this, but you go up, you perceive that most notes going sharp, and so it makes sense to our brain to do it that way. And then same thing going flat when you go down to the bass. And so it has this little bit of a S curve to it. Middle is mostly flat, mostly unchanged. So.
Got you.
Yeah.
So when you started on this F right here, and then you went to this
A4 and then C6.
And right there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and that's called the FAC Temperament.
Okay, awesome. And so I got a little bit of footage of you when you started tuning this, but just to let everyone know, so you did this approach. What's it called again? The
FAC.
Just FAC.
Yep.
Face.
Yeah.
But just this octave, next octave, jump the next octave.
Yep.
You did those 3 notes, and then you started C sharp?
I started right at the tenor bass break.
Okay. And isn't that the same in every piano? Or?
No, they're all different.
They're all different.
All different.
Why?
Yeah.
Why are they all different like that?
Piano manufacturers came up with a scale. The string gauges as they go up and down, as you move up and down the scale, are all pretty much different. They're the same model to model, but they came up with, okay, we're going to start here, and that's where the break is. Bass strings are wound to here, those kind of things.
Okay.
So they decided that sounds the best. But I typically start right at the tenor break and go up. Reason for that is when you approach a piano, when you first start tuning for the day, you're mentally the freshest.
Right.
And that's the area most people play. That's my philosophy anyways. You can start at the bottom. There's nothing wrong with that. You can start top down if you want to. There's really no defined way
But that
you
makes
have to do
sense.
it. Yeah.
Get the most important part first, because your ears are going to be the freshest.
Yep.
Just like a mix engineer, you would take the hardest part of the mix, the most important part of the mix, first before you start doing everything, because you're the ear fatigue over a day. And
there's ear fatigue, yeah. And that's another thing when first starting out. I mean, you're tuning 2.5, maybe 3 hours on the same piano. You're just mentally exhausted. It's best once you hit that limit to just hold off and come back, especially when you're learning, starting out. Just because a burnout is really high, yeah.
That's good, man. So just so everyone knows, so you did FAC, and then you went to where this tenor bridge, you call it, or
The break.
The break.
Yeah.
The tenor break is wherever that would be in your piano, and that's where you started, and you went chromatically up.
Yes.
All the way, and you said the highest register was the hardest to tune.
Right.
Because of?
Overtones, you'll just naturally it rings. There aren't any dampers up there, and so there's just a lot of extra voices, and just it could be some garbage of strings just not quite in sync with each other. And,
Yeah.
and then the actual note goes away so quickly. And that is definitely the hardest on any piano.
That's good, man. That's good. So after you did all of that, then you started on C and worked your way down. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So thank you for showing us all your gear and all your things. So with your setup, as far as how much it's worth, with all the hammers, the tuning, the mutes, and everything, are you looking at $3 or $4 grand, or even more than that?
That will get you started.
Okay.
You can always spend as much money into whatever hobby or profession.
Of course.
They do have phone apps now.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I'm a little biased.
Okay,
but
that's fine.
But phone apps have come a long way, even past 5 years. Whereas before they couldn't quite, I don't know if it's a microphone on the phone or tablet you're using, but now they've really opened that up, and it seems like they've gotten the temperament correct. And there are updates for them pretty frequently. You can't really update this.
Talk about the temperament. That's like a big thing. What is temperament?
It's just that stretch of the piano. So our brain perceives things in a certain way, and so this kind of mathematically guesses of where it should go. And by doing that FAC, we're measuring that stretch, the natural stretch of the piano, and it's calculating where it should be. And generally, our brains agree with that. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So as far as tuning, piano tuners that tune just by ear, how do you do that? What do you say for people that just tune by ear versus having an instrument like this that helps you be more exact with what you're doing? What do you have to say between those two types of styles?
Yeah, great question. We've gotten asked that before.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me start that over.
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, we've gotten asked that before. The tuning by ear is definitely a skill set and actually the PTG wants you to do that. To pass an exam, they have you...
PTG as in...
Piano Technicians Guild.
Okay, cool.
And so there's a chapter of piano techs that they get together and update each other with new techniques and fellowship and that kind of thing. But in order to qualify, in order to be a registered member, you have to take an exam, and that's one of the requirements is to take an oral exam. And so you have to actually know how to tune by ear. It's a nice skill set to have. Thoughts on it? If you're looking for results, that's probably one of the best way to tune a piano. However, to do multiple pianos in a day that's not feasible. You're going to have a lot of fatigue. It takes 2 to 3 hours to do it right, to have it really just dialed in.
Yes.
If that's the only piano you have all day to tune, then that's great. However, business, we have lots of customers, and so we do have to. That's not to say that we take shortcuts. However, this is a tool that really helps us get that stretch immediately, and we listen. We still use our ears, but we're using that as a tool to speed things up there.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, when did this device even come out? In recent years or recent decades, or?
Decades. So I think the original one, the SAT-1, I think that was in the 80s,
Okay.
maybe 90s. Yeah.
And before the 80s and 90s, was it all primarily by ear, or were they using other tuners before that?
Other types of tuners.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
my dad has an old strobe tuner. And so
Okay.
that was a little more hands-on as far as the aural tuning, getting your stretch, watching the meter, and you can use a tuning fork. And it's really more analog.
That's cool. That's cool, man. I'm learning new things because I'm learning that the curve that you need, I'm learning that was pretty amazing. And with audio, which I went to audio engineering school, the Fletcher-Munson curve is what in the 20s that was developed. Fletcher-Munson curves is talking about we perceive those frequencies differently depending on the amplitude as well. So when you're mixing, you have ear fatigue, and then when you're mixing at a certain amplitude, you're hearing more frequencies are perceived louder than the others. So if you're always mixing at a high amplitude, you're actually going to hear a lot of those really highs and those really lows, really amplitude, and your mix is going to sound smaller. So the quieter you can mix, the bigger your mix will actually sound. And so yeah, those kind of things, it's interesting because there's so many curves within audio mixing and engineering, and that also applies here where you also need a curve with your highs versus lows. I think that's just physics, and that's amazing how that all works, where maybe a misconception is that every single note is perfectly dialed into that exact register, but it's not. It's a stretch,
Right.
Which is pretty cool. So do you mind showing us your whole toolbox, like everything that you carry with you? Like, what are some go-to tools that you always have with you?
Right. Good question. So this is just my tuning toolbox.
Okay,
So
just your
kinda
tuning.
Very quick, travel light toolbox. I do have two other toolboxes, like a medium duty and then a really heavy box if I'm in really trouble.
In your case, it's this Pelican SKB type case.
Yeah, it's
pretty cool.
standard this size case.
Yeah, which mine is just like a tackle box toolbox.
That works too.
But I can tell you're more the pro because if you get any water into that, it's pretty protected. If it falls, you're pretty protected.
Yeah, so I have my tuner, a couple tuning hammers. Actually, I have a couple mutes. These are my two basic mutes. This is
Now that one's very thick for...
And I use this for grands. Just to stop the extra energy in the string. Just need a little bit thicker sometimes.
Got you.
I do have some felts that I can weave in the strings if I need to, but I usually just use this method. Works 99% of the time. Actually, this is really important.
Let's see, it looks like a glasses case.
It's funny, this was 3D printed we have one of our techs is a 3D printing nerd, and he loves just making custom things like this. He made a custom case for this guy.
Oh, that's really cool.
Which, actually, I'm out right now, but it's called Seale P. So it's a lubricant that works wonders. So most of the sticking keys that we come across can be fixed by this. And so we can apply this in various places in the piano. That's why the link, so we can just take it in there without having to remove the action. So
that's nice.
And that's extremely important. So just as CA for fixing things together, this is great for lubrication.
That's amazing. And you're putting that on the hammers, or
yeah, see if we can.
Where does that go?
Can't really see from here unless I take the whole action out.
Right.
But there are 10,000 roughly parts to a piano.
Crazy.
And most of those parts move, and so they have different various joints that actually have a metal pin that kind of holds them together.
Wow.
Largely unchanged for 100 years, that design, which is interesting.
But pretty amazing.
This will get right down in there and just lubricate those points.
Awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you get some pliers too, and you get some other random stuff.
Pliers,
what's all those?
Screwdriver, so you can actually take pretty much the whole piano apart with a screwdriver, a multi-function.
Oh. That's cool.
And we'll also have the socket for certain things. So you can adjust capstans, we call it capstans.
Yes.
Up and down, like that way.
Yeah. I have this little thing.
Yes,
that does this similar stuff, right?
That is, and I have that in my other toolbox, but and that is a kind of multi-function.
This little guy that cuts the...
Hammer shanks.
Hammer shanks, okay.
Yep.
I've only used it one time. So put this back in here.
Yeah, and that guy, that multifunction has several different inserts, so you can have different tools depending on the type of piano you run across.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Yep.
Who do you buy from? Is there a company that you recommend, or do you just
I do buy, the big one is Schaff. Most people know about that one. They actually merged with Piano Tech, and they have this really large conglomerate of parts, and you can get most everything you need, especially starting out. You can get everything. However, their shipping prices are really high for whatever reason. We can actually order out of the country some of these parts that are more expensive, but end up getting them cheaper because of shipping, which is really weird. But
interesting.
There are other companies. Supply 88 is another company. Irwin, there's a few out there, but
cool, man.
Yeah, Schaff will pretty much do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I would say the only other kind of weird tool is this. It's been mistaken for brass knuckles, but those same things you have to lubricate, those center pins, this will actually punch them out. So you put them in between here, squeeze, and then that pin will come out. And same thing in reverse. You put them in here and they will squeeze them together.
That's interesting.
So you can add and remove parts as you need, lubricate or clean, and then punch them back. So
neat.
Yep, my go-to.
Yeah. What about, I've heard some things online, forums and stuff, about changing the tone of your piano. Oh, my piano it's so bright and brittle, like how do I warm it up? Or vice versa, it's mellow, how to make it a little brighter. And I've heard people talking about puncturing certain things, or using a hair dryer, or using heat or something.
Yeah.
Can you speak about that, changing the tone of the piano?
And that's all under what we call voicing. So voicing is the tone of the piano, bright or rich, full, is the terms. But generally, the hammer has the most important aspect of the tone characteristics. So as the felt is hitting the string, if it's really compacted, you'll get a hard, almost thin, nasally sound, which is not desirable. So over time, generally most pianos will get brighter because of that. So what we can do is actually go in and needle or voice down the hammer. So what we're doing is we're essentially breaking up that hard compacted felt and bringing forward a softer felt. And so as it hits the string, it brings back more of a tone, a fuller sound by doing that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. I want you to talk a little bit about what you see as far as piano tuning companies. Are people going out of business nowadays? Is this still a great profession to be in? Is this...
Great question.
Like you Google it, I think one time I Googled it, and it's, yeah, a piano technician makes $35,000 a year. And if you're thinking about that, but man, I don't know if I can live off that. What is the common rate that y'all have 7 technicians. On a full-time tuner, what kind of money are they making, and can you make a living, and is this still a profession that people should still even consider doing?
All great questions. I would say recently, a lot of people are going to keyboards. A lot of churches are going to keyboards. It's less maintenance.
Right.
I mean, you spend a lot of money up front, but however, you can get a pretty decent sound. I get that. However, a lot of people like the traditional sound. You really can't, you can mimic the sound all you want, but to have the feeling, you press the keys, you get that feedback through the keys, through the pedals. There's still plenty of people out there that need tunings.
Absolutely.
The work is out there. Marketing yourself is pretty hard to do. Lots and lots of people are marketing. My dad first started in '85. There were James Harledge, which actually his son and I know each other. You know, he's also a tuner. And then there was a blind guy that was tuning. 3 guys in Nashville. That was it. Now 60 people, I think, are in Nashville. I mean, full-time techs out there.
Incredible.
Yeah, there is. That's not to say that there's not any work. So there is still work. You have to do a really good job, because one bad review can wipe you out, unfortunately. Yeah. So when we have new techs that come in, they just really need lots of repetition. So we take them under our wing, plenty of pianos that we have on our showroom and that kind of thing, to experience the different variety of grands, baby grands, old, new pianos, to get that kind of tuning time under their belt. Once they have that, we can graduate them out to the field. If you're starting out by yourself, it's a pretty hard thing to do. That's why I'd recommend, if you do have friends or family, do it no charge, unfortunately, you just need that experience. To charge somebody and do an okay job, you're not going to get your callbacks.
Absolutely.
We have seen, one of our techs actually used to work 6 days a week, about 5 pianos a day.
Wow.
He was really churning them out. He was making a lot. I would say typically you could probably make 40 if 5 days a week, really get at it.
Yeah.
That's probably an average range. So.
Absolutely.
And of course, yeah, if you can really specialize and then raise your rates. Say if you specialize in action regulation or like player systems or subcategories of pianos, you can, then of course you can be a specialist and charge a little more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool, man. That's cool. I'm going to wrap this episode up, man. Appreciate your time,
Absolutely.
As always.
Yeah.
But I have a few more things, just a few more things to ask. With the technology that's evolving, you have keyboards. Now, pianos are here to stay. There's so many people. We love like an acoustic piano. I'm a big software guy. I love being in the computer and sampling things and then putting it into the computer and playing on the keyboard with MIDI. But I just love going out here and playing on the piano and singing, and especially around Christmas time, and you just pull up the old music songbook and just play. Everyone gathers around the piano. I don't think the piano's going anywhere. But on the lines of technology evolving with AI, is AI a threat to piano tuners?
I don't think so.
At all? Okay.
Yeah. I would say keyboards in general, maybe.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that would replace a human hearing that and then interacting with the piano in a certain way. It's just, yeah.
That's good, man. And we were talking about this earlier as you were tuning. Talking about there's a new piano at MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University, where I went to grad school, and it's really cool. Is it called a Disclavier?
Disclavier, made by Yamaha.
Made by Yamaha. I want you to tell my audience here about that piano, not just that one in particular, but just any piano like that, because it's really impressive what it can do. It basically joins the capabilities of playing MIDI information back on a real piano, grand piano with all the action strings and everything. So it's like this combination, this marriage of technology and like that acoustic elements. Can you share with us what is Disclavier, what does it do, and then also mention the thing about MIDI?
Oh, yes.
Because
right.
MIDI goes from that 0 to 128. You said they have a high resolution MIDI.
Yeah.
That
right.
goes to how many, what's the value, 2048?
2048, yeah.
Wow.
So 2048 individual note velocities per key, which is a lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, man.
Yeah. So Yamaha Disclavier started, I think, in the early 80s. It's their version of the player system. And in my opinion, it's probably the best system currently available. You can only have it on a Yamaha piano, and only Yamaha installs it. So unfortunately, that's not something we can install. We install other ones, but in my opinion, that is the best system. And they've recently come out with their latest system, which is this Inspire system, that will connect to other pianos across the world if you wanted to, and will transmit that high resolution MIDI data to the other piano. So if you're at a college and you want to interview or apply to a college to get a scholarship, they have this program where they'll have a high-end Yamaha piano on the stage and a couple judges, and then you can just remote into that piano and play your piece and get graded that way.
Isn't that wild, y'all?
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And that's done through like audio over IP, internet protocol, and you can do it through Dante. But basically, you play it on a keyboard or another player piano, a real piano, and then you use that MIDI data via over the internet in real time, and can literally go play on another player piano like the Disclavier Yamaha at the same time, which is mind-boggling.
Oh, yeah.
That is
Yeah.
insane how that can happen.
That's amazing.
It's incredible, man. I will say, guys, if you're really looking for a great piano technician, you definitely need to connect with Austin, because he and his team will take care of you. So even if you are in Huntsville, Alabama, because they will travel, they will come for certain things, especially if you're moving, piano moving, maintenance. If this is your baby piano and you want to really get good taken care of, Austin and his team will do it. And Austin, thanks so much for taking the time. I know you came here.
Yeah, of course.
You did a great job on the tuning. The piano sounds great. The F-sharp's back in place, which I'm so thankful for. But thank you for taking the time just to share about piano tuning and how people should take care of their piano, and also how this is a great career choice, like honestly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciate it.